Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. Now, Jenny Gilruth, who is the so-called education minister in Scotland, keeps trying to push Scottish schools being the best in the world. Scottish education is something to be proud of. Blah 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 blah. It's actually not, and she's been found out. Now, one of the problems you have is that for nearly 20 years, the SNP has been running Scotland, and at every opportunity, it's been removing powers, authorities, decision making, moving it constantly up until it's right at the very pinnacle of government. Nobody further down the chain, regardless of how expert they are, is allowed to make decisions in case those decisions are not what the SNP want. One of these is the removal of powers for a headmaster, headmistress, head teacher to expel from school unruly, disruptive, or often abusive pupils. And this is a terrible mistake. It means these pupils can act with impunity. And they do. And now a world-renowned expert, and by the name of Tom Bennett, has made an assessment of Scottish schools and the Scottish Government's approach to school discipline amid what is now a palpably risky place, the school classroom. He's saying it's a dangerous place to be if you are a pupil or a teacher. Now, Gilruth herself has been shamed, humiliated, forced to go onto the defensive, actually, as a result of these claims by this world-renowned expert who knows far more about it than Gilruth does. But to be honest, my dog sitting over there on my sofa knows far more about this than Gilruth does. Gilruth is a dumb bin who knows nothing. But he said his assessment has shown that Scottish pupils are among the worst in the world. Their behaviour, their violence, their sexual violence. He says he's never seen anything as bad as the schooling system in Scotland. And this, of course, is because they've got no fear. They know that they can do whatever they like, and there's literally no comeback. There's no cane, there's no expulsions. Indeed, if you speak to them too harshly, they get onto their solicitors and say, I've been abused, I've got terrible stress now. And that's what happens. But the report's been published, and it found that national guidance for schools on matters of discipline has created what he calls and describes the implication that bad behaviour within the classroom is the fault of the teacher. But what's the teacher to do? The teacher can't beat the child. The teacher can't throw the child out. The teacher must accept this. And if a teacher is, for example, sexually abused on a Friday, goes home, cries all weekend, musters the strength to walk back in on a Monday, the pupil that abused her is still sitting there in the classroom, smirking. Now, he said that the Commission on School Reform, which urged the SNP executive to lift the pressure on head teachers by allowing the use of what they call serious sanctions, such as suspensions, expulsions, etc., said they should have done that, but the SNP dismissed this advice, and he said at that moment, schools became unworkable, unruly, unteachable. He says they may as well just not bother. Now, violence in the classroom in Scotland has literally exploded in last 2 years. Shocking stories are coming out. The level of violence has gone up 500%. You have teachers being the victim of sexual and violent abuse, pupils being the victim of sexual and violent abuse, and the abusers not being punished. Something's got to give. Well, the unions now are starting to see this. Assaults are hitting 16,000 a year. Assaults on teachers, 16,000 a year, which means 1 every 4 minutes of class time. And what's happened is 44% of teachers have reported that they've experienced physical or sexual abuse. 90% have been verbally abused. And a total of 40,000 violent incidents were reported in total, including pupils, in 1 single year. He's saying the way you deal with it is you give the head teachers back the powers, and you suspend and you exclude. And basically, if you don't do that, you might as well give up. The teaching unions, they are saying now that given the dangerousness of being a teacher in a classroom, they advise that any teacher who is abused verbally or physically or sexually go straight to the head teacher of that school, says they are leaving, until the classroom is made safe again. They're reporting it as a Health and Safety at Work Act issue. That way they can stay at home on full pay until that classroom is safe to re-enter. And if the pupils who are doing the abuse aren't removed, then that class is not safe to re-enter. And so these teachers can stay at home on full pay until they are. That's the way to deal with it. And all of a sudden you can have these schools filled with pupils and not a single teacher in them, because no teacher is going to go in and do that. And if they have the right to go home and sit at home on full pay because it's a Health and Safety at Work Act issue, do it. And then watch the SNP crumble, because they will. But he said it's harrowing to see what's happening to pupils, to teachers, and to the entire state school system. He says perhaps state school is not the answer. Perhaps schools that you pay for would be the answer. It removes the power out of the hands of the state, and it means that any unruly pupils can just simply be told to FRO, not his words, mine, but can be expelled with the loss, therefore, of that year's monies. Not to the school, the parents. The parents sign it up. It's in the contract. If you get thrown out, there's no refunds. And when you're paying £30,000 to educate your kid, good help. Yeah. He's quite right. We need to do it. We very, very much need to do it, because a violent classroom leads to violent people, and you'll pay for it in years to come. Thanks very much.